morning. It is Thursday, October 15th, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, violence hits Jerusalem again. One Israeli is stabbed in a terror attack in the central bus station as Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas accuses Israel of executing a Palestinian teen who committed a stabbing attack a few days ago. Thousands of Iranian military units are reportedly pouring into Syria to help the Assad regime in the war-torn country. And later on the show, something slightly lighter and exposed. After 62 years, Playboy gives in to online pornography and drops its trademark nudes. Stay with us. Good morning, I'm Yael Avi, and we begin in Jerusalem today, where the wave of violence continues. 70-year-old woman was wounded in a stabbing attack near the city's central bus station, the latest in a long series of similar attacks over the past 2 weeks. The assailant, a 26-year-old Palestinian from East Jerusalem, was shot dead by police after trying to flee the scene. A second Palestinian was shot earlier in the day yesterday after attempting to carry out a stabbing attack at the Damascus Gate of the Old City of Jerusalem. Now, yesterday's attacks came despite increased security measures put in place in Jerusalem by order of Israel's Security Cabinet in an effort to curb the violence that has been spiraling out of control over the course of the last 2 weeks. On the other side, namely in Ramallah, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas gave a speech yesterday in which he accused Israel of executing young Palestinian children, referring to a 13-year-old Palestinian stabber who was shot after attacking Israeli civilians. So 15 days on, the wave of terror accusations, blame and violence still continues. Let's take a look at I-24 News' Charles Biblizer's report about the events of yesterday and break it down.
New security measures in Jerusalem, but still the wave of terror continues. A quiet morning brought hope of calm, but 2 stabbing attacks over the past few hours in Jerusalem were a stark reminder of the volatile situation. Police foiled the first attack near Damascus Gate in the Old City, while a woman was moderately injured outside of the central bus station. Jerusalem has experienced daily terror on its streets for almost 2 weeks now, though there were calls to enforce a full closure on eastern neighborhoods, including from the mayor of Jerusalem himself. The decision ultimately taken was to settle for roadblocks and security checks, like here in Jabal Mukaber.
This is very humiliating for the Arabs. We want to go to work, to shop, to live our lives, and they disturb us constantly.
But the reason for these measures is that the vast majority of recent attacks have been perpetrated by East Jerusalem residents. This neighborhood was home to the 3 attackers who committed 2 attacks in Jerusalem Tuesday, killing 3 people and injuring at least 20 others.
We didn't do anything, and here, look, a checkpoint, IDs, they check everything.
The new policies also include reinforcing police presence in Israel's cities with IDF soldiers, with 6 battalions set to be deployed over the course of the day.
I think it will help, but I think every citizen should protect him or herself with something, because they commit the attacks in places where there are only citizens, and the citizen must be ready and alert.
Military police patrols are set to join standard police units in an attempt to calm tensions in Jerusalem and Israel in general. But despite the measures, less people were on the streets today, a clear indication citizens are skeptical order can be restored.
We're going to go first live straight to Jerusalem, where we are joined by I-24 News' Ron Friedman, who's standing by in Ras Al Amoud. Ron, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Yael. Like you said, here in Ras Al Amoud, East Jerusalem neighborhood. This is actually the neighborhood from where yesterday's assailant hailed from. As you can see behind me, a heavy security presence, and it's like that all over the city today, as is in recent days. A new report emerging last night from the diplomatic front. Israel's Channel 10 television reported, so far unconfirmed, that the Americans are trying to organize a summit inviting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to Jordan for a summit which will be led by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, hopefully to talk to both sides, try to bring about some calm. Again, these are unconfirmed and Channel 10 is reporting this. In the meantime, we are hearing from Washington. U.S. State Department spokesman John Kirby gave a statement yesterday which many construed to be pretty critical of Israel, harshly critical of Israel. Let's have a listen.
Certainly individuals on both sides of this divide have proven capable of, and in our view, guilty of acts of terror. We've certainly seen some reports of security activity that could indicate the potential excessive use of force. And again, we don't want to see that anywhere. We don't want to see that here in our own country. So yeah, we're concerned about that.
We're joined in studio this morning by I-24 News correspondent Mohammed Al-Qasim. Good morning to you. With us, of course, also I-24 News senior Arab Affairs analyst Ali Waqid. Ali, good morning to you. With us as well is the former member of Israeli Security Cabinet, Brigadier General in Reserve Ephraim Eitam. Good morning to you. And of course, we cannot do this without the former Director General of the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, Yosef Kuperwasser. Good morning to you. Actually, I want to start with you, Mr. Kuperwasser, because if you heard John Kirby yesterday, and there's a lot of talk, before we break down the situation on the ground specifically, that the international arena is not really taking heed of what is going on right now, both in Israel and the West Bank. And when it comes to that, Kirby basically, as you've heard him yesterday, he doesn't point the finger at one side specifically. He says the accountability is on both sides. Can this be resolved without a third party, such a strong power, and I'm talking, of course, about the United States, in your mind?
Well, yes, it can. And in my mind, the capabilities of the United States to make a difference in this conflict right now are limited. Because they lost control of what's happening in the Palestinian side. And the Palestinian side is now affected by the ongoing incitement and some state of a mob state of mind, and which caused, and Abu Mazen yesterday just poured more oil on the fire. The state of mind of the Palestinians is, let's kill the Jews. And that's what you see in the internet, on the web. That's what you hear from the leaders. It's a crazy situation in which I think the capabilities of the United States to intervene are limited.
No, limited, but that said, one can say a crazy mob. Actually, if I'm asking you because you're also part of the security upper echelon in Israel for many, many years. The bulk of this, and this is statistically, the bulk of these assailants, the people who are perpetrating these terror attacks, Palestinians, they are not coming out of organizations. 80% of them, mostly out of East Jerusalem, are youngsters who are doing this on their own volition, who are not being sent by the Al-Azim al-Qassam. They're not being sent by groups. They're doing this on their own accord. So how can this be combated by the security administration?
I think that first, beyond the curtain of smoke and shouts and some blood which is spilled, we should look at what did not happen. And that's quite encouraging. As you have described it, it's a small amount of the Palestinian population which is actively in the front lines, but most of the Palestinians, and I drove from the Palestinian territory today, this morning, hundreds and thousands of Palestinians and cars are queuing on their way to work in Israel. Most of the Palestinian population is willing to continue their life because they see the alternatives in the Middle East. No poverty, no desperation, all the territory, no ex-territories for the defense forces and security forces in the West Bank. They can go wherever they want and to take control over every event, well, to avoid it from happening. So we should put it in a proportion. It's very scary, it's very painful, deaths of people, but it's not a war. It's not a life and death matter for Israel. And I'm fully convinced that if they would have had, the Palestinians, a better leadership and not this liar, forgive me, on the front, we could have contained that much easier and much faster. But believe me, in few weeks maximum, that will be contained. This is not a strategic matter. It's a burst of feelings. It's a burst of identifying of young people with the radical Islam, which is they are surrounded with.
Social media plays a bigger role here, and I think we're looking at several things.
So what I want to say here now for the first round of comments, that it already contained, it will be contained, and the motivation, especially of the Palestinians, to bring things back to normal, whether if there will be negotiations or not, is so high that I cannot see that last.
Mohammed Qasim, I'm asking you because is this contained right now? Can anybody contain this? I mean, given the fact that, then I agree, this is not an organized uprising, but it's very hard to combat.
It will be almost self-contained. Feelings will be cooled a little bit. Economic needs will dictate a little more rational behavior. Believe me, we have passed such crises before. It's not a strategic matter.
It's not a strategic matter. Yes, you were trying to say.
First of all, I think it's very concerning that we have someone here who calls the president of the Palestinian Authority a liar without without actually having any substance. You don't have any substance.
He lied yesterday.
You don't have any substance to what you're saying.
Telling that a child was executed and he is alive in the hospital.
Okay,
I think he was referring to the shooting, but that it's the semantics that we all do.
I'm talking in general. I'm talking about semantics. I'm talking about.
No, we're going to all have to stick to folks.
He is a liar.
You have to realize one thing, regardless of what you think of what you said, everybody in Israel, after yesterday, believes that Abu Mazen is a liar. You can say whatever you want, but everybody believes he's a liar.
It's not me.
Yeah, but,
and you know, you take it into a marginal. Look
here.
what happened. We discuss about the issue. And
Is
you come now
is
to
this
argue.
morning show being hijacked now, and we're not going to be able to speak? First of all, it's not about what I think; it's about what's on the ground. First of all, you just mentioned that these people are being radicalized. They're turning into Islamic radicalization. I am on the ground every single day for the past week, and I know for a fact that these people, they're not even. I don't think that the majority of them attend the 5 prayers in a mosques every single day. These people, they're frustrated. They're very frustrated. They feel they're in despair, and they just why we need to look at the politics. We need to look outside the box and look.
The best standard of living in the whole Arabic world.
Well, maybe you need to join me one day, and I'll take you into
And again,
obviously, you're not going into Jerusalem, Arab Jerusalem neighborhoods. Obviously, you're not going into the West Bank. You talk about the Palestinians in the West Bank, that they can go everywhere they wish, as if that's true. That isn't true. That is not true. So we just have to be fair about how we and precise on how we use our words. And another thing, the United States have lost its credibility, and not so much because of the Palestinian Authority. It's because of the current Israeli government. From day one, when President Obama came to power, to the White House, and he said we need to look into the settlement issue, Benjamin Netanyahu turned him off. And every time there was an attempt by him to move the peace process forward, it was he was smacked with another settlement building.
No, but credibility is a very big word here. And Ali Wakad, I want to ask you, because this report that we heard out of Israeli Channel 10 yesterday, which is the only place that's being reported, the Americans supposedly trying to set up the summit between Abu Mazen and Netanyahu in Yemen. Any credibility to that? And what can even come out of it?
In Amman.
In Amman, pardon, in Jordan. In Amman, in Jordan.
First of all,
it's been a long week. That was such a great in Amman. My God, yes, folks.
First of all, I can confirm that the Americans are trying to carry out such a meeting between Abbas and Netanyahu, and it's not by accident that they chosen Jordan, because Jordan has a word in Jerusalem, and they play a major role.
Jordan, Amman being the place of many summits in the past between Israeli leaders.
But I think that Abu Mazen is willing to see whether there will be some results for this meeting and not a photo-op meeting. He was a long time criticized that he met with all Israeli leaders, and at the end of the day he got back to Ramallah with nothing in its hand. But I want to mention something yesterday, Ayel. In my opinion, this is the first time I heard Abu Mazen speaking such a word for the first time since the first part of the first Intifada. Abu Mazen yesterday gave a green light to the Palestinians to keep in their and their controlled uprising. In Arabic, it is the Haba, or the popular resistance. He gave a green light that we want to see those young in the points between Palestinian territories and the settlements fighting. On the other hand, his instructions...
One word. What he calls Haba and uprising, it's killing Jews daily. That's the actual meaning of Haba. So all these words, it's encouraging, you said, it's encouraging the young Palestinian people to take knives and kill people, innocent civilians daily. That's the real meaning.
The Palestinian Authority is arresting everybody that might steal the Intifada to an armed confrontation. The instructions of Abu Mazen are clear. The
What did he encourage? What did he tell them?
Abu Mazen,
keep on killing Jews daily.
Abu Mazen, 3 days before his speech, met with local leaders of Fatah, and he admitted that since 1999 we are achieving zero in our negotiations with the Israelis. And maybe for the first time this man is saying maybe this kind of uprising will attract the attention of the world. He's of course enjoying what is happening in Jerusalem.
It was the first time that Abu Mazen never mentioned the word peace process in his speech.
And by the way,
basically saying that the peace process is pretty much dead.
And by the way, Yael, because I'm
the process,
the
negotiations.
First to leave, when we talk about a liar and liars, you should meet international diplomats to see when they talk about liar whether they mean Netanyahu or Abu Mazen.
No, and the sad thing that we're all lumped together. But I want us to have a listen to what Mahmoud Abbas had to say yesterday, because it's being dismantled right here around this table. This is what the Palestinian leader had to say yesterday in a speech in Ramallah. Let's have a listen.
We won't give up for the logic of using brute force and the occupation and aggression policies that are being practiced by the Israeli government and the settlers that are practicing terrorism against our people and our sacred places, our homes, our trees, and the execution of our children, like they did for this kid, Ahmad Manasra, and other kids.
And now we're talking semantics here. I'm going to start with you, Mohammed Al-Qassim. You know, and actually to all of us, when we're talking about what is said, the word in Arabic, yes or no, my question to you is, will the Palestinian young population understand what he's saying, if in that point you are saying that he's actually calling for peaceful resistance? Will they get that?
To be quite honest with you, I spoke to people in Ramallah. I spoke to people in Bethlehem. I was in Bethlehem last night, and I asked people who were out there, on the street, and I said, "How come you're not going to watch the president's speech? It's about half an hour from now." And about 5 or 6 people said, "We don't care about it. We don't put much into it, much credit to it. It's really."
Does it mean he's not relevant anymore as a leader?
If you let me finish the sentence, I will promise you to give you the what you want to hear or their answer.
No,
it's basically what they're saying is we lost faith in the peace process, and now we want to go back to the first Intifada. We want to tell the people, tell the world that we don't have what we were promised to 22 years ago with the Oslo Accord. So I think if the Oslo Accord is about to die, and if there is no real, if it's not already dead,
argue that it's already dead.
Yeah, probably. But probably this whole wave of violence have signed its death certificate.
Yeah, but no, go ahead. And then I have a question for you.
One has to understand the Palestinian terminology, first of all. That's several areas where the Palestinians managed to cheat the world in using the dual meaning terminology. When they say peaceful popular resistance, this means using every kind of terrorism that does not include live arms, live fire. That's the kind of stabbing, driving over, throwing stones and Molotov cocktails. All of these things are parts of the popular resistance. And when Abu Mazen said, let's go on with this is what every Palestinian understands. This is very clear common language. Secondly, when they speak about peace and the Oslo Agreement, we have to understand, they speak about an Oslo Agreement that would enable them to have a state in the 67 territories without accepting the existence of Israel as a nation state of the Jewish people. This is the main obstacle. This is the main thing this battle is all about. Why is it fought over the Al-Aqsa?
That's not what Oslo Accord is about. Israel being a Jewish state or not, that's up to the Israeli people. It's not up to the Palestinian people.
That's exactly the issue. By the way, the accords are not about establishing a Palestinian state. It's not mentioned in the accords as well. So
maybe that's what's wrong about Oslo.
There's a lot of things wrong about Oslo, but there's no promise for a Palestinian state in Oslo.
Yes, Mr. Tam.
What is really disturbing me, as I said, beyond the proportion of the event, which should be really put in the right context, is the religious dimension, which is, first, you hear the Palestinian not speaking anymore about national Badam Waroch Palestine, but they call for Al-Aqsa. Now, it's writing for the Palestinian leadership. It's writing on a tiger, and I see Mahmoud Abbas is already riding this tiger, and this tiger will swallow him as it did with all the moderate, so-called secular administration regime states around us. And if that tiger will be released, then a strategic event is around the corner. Because a religious war, if the young generation in Judaism area will join hands with the most radical Al-Qaeda and the other horrible organizations which are killing people in the name of
that has popularity.
Even you will
not even in Gaza, Al-Qaeda has popularity. So not even in Gaza, which is controlled by Hamas. So for you to try to say that this is turning into a religious conflict, it's very, very concerning, because this isn't a religious conflict. Absolutely not.
It's territorial.
It's territorial.
I think
it has nothing to do with religion.
We have all the signs, the terminology, the selecting Jerusalem and the Holy Mount as the subject, as the issue. It's coming, and you are lighting fire, which will first burn you. We shall manage. It will burn you as moderate people, educated people, maybe secular people. Look what happened around. What happened in Syria? What happened in Iraq?
This has nothing to do with what's happening. This conflict existed for a long time. And what's happening in Syria and Iran and Iraq and Libya, it's out of this area. It has nothing to do with what's happening here.
The seeds of religious conflict already have been planted. Look at that. And this poison tree will first kill you before it kills Israel.
I'm just asking you, because the tragedy here is, seriously, because the tragedy here is of who will it kill first. The fact that, we're all talking about this demise of both peoples is very, very tragic. Then I'm asking you, Mr. Eitam, what do you think then that Israel, because we've been talking about what the Palestinians do, what they should say, what they are saying. What should Israel do at this point? Because, irrespective of who's to blame, which is the problem for all of us right here, we're always looking back.
I think that what Israel is doing now, when the crisis is in atmost, and what it did before, is the right thing to do. I mean to say, reducing all the terminology and flames which are about to do with religious, conflict, and at the same time to offer the Palestinians as individuals, as communities, the best life and the most flourishing economy, high standard of living, as they don't have anywhere in the Middle East. When they look at the alternatives, is Gaza the alternative? Is Lebanon the alternative? Is Syria the alternative?
It's such compounded subjects.
So I agree with you that they are not.
Occupation is the alternative.
It's not. Occupation is a slogan. When I look at the individuals,
so it's not a reality.
When I travel in Ramallah,
I see. You know what internationally we call the West Bank, the occupied territory.
The way to end the occupation is to accept the basic concepts of peace. The Palestinians are not ready to accept peace, because for the basic concept of peace, in your opinion? Yes, the difference between us is that the Israelis have a concept of peace that is based on coexistence. The Palestinians have a concept of peace that's based on the expulsion of the Jews from here. As long as this is the case, there's not going to be an end for the occupation.
There will be no end of the occupation. Maximum what you can expect is respected annexation. And I think that this annexation de facto 50 years already happened. You have been annexed to one of the most successful, flourishing economies, to a only democracy in the Middle East.
We agree to disagree. I mean, because
no. But do you agree that you don't want peace because you want to expel the Jews from here?
You cannot say something.
My opinion. It's not. This isn't about my opinion.
No, not you, not yourself. You, I mean the Palestinians. I mean the Palestinians.
Why?
This is what the Palestinians want.
Mr. Cooper,
This is what the Palestinians want.
It's not true.
Of course it's true. Why is it not? Why does Abu Mazen refuses to accept Israel as a nation state of Jewish people? Because he believes that in the end of the day they're going to be expelled from here.
Listen, everybody.
I want to end it only by one question. Why isn't it good for the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria the same arrangements which the Israeli Arabs has? Why?
Because they don't want it. Because they
what is good for
Faram
and what is good for Jaffa? This is a respected annexation.
You go out and speak to Arabs in Israel and they would...
To be annexed is somebody's decision, and I'm just stopping this because I'm the only woman in this studio and I can do it. Exactly.
That will be
as the only woman, I'm going straight to Jerusalem. Exactly. And a woman should always stop everything. As we're discussing all these security and who said what to whom, Ron Friedman still with us, I-24 News correspondent in Jerusalem, speaking of those security measures, irrespective of the terminology that we're using here. What did you see on your way in? Because there are blocks, and apropos, the way of life of the East Jerusalem Palestinians has been disturbed, and not all of them are stabbers. What have you seen on your way in?
Right. Well, listen, I've been listening to the fascinating debate going on in the studio, and regardless, Israel isn't waiting to hear or see what the results of Mahmoud Abbas's speech yesterday. They're not taking any risks. Security forces are present in the eastern neighborhoods. New blockades, new checkpoints are being formed all the time. Yesterday, later on today, more expected in. Military units, police units are also converging here. Israel, the police force is sparing no cost in trying to provide security for the city's Jewish citizens, and that's coming at the expense of the Palestinian residents whose way of life is being disrupted. I mean, looking around us, shops here are closed, not much traffic on the street. And there's doubtless that's going to upset some people, and we'll see whether it has the desired effect of actually producing security.
Producing security, and I think all of us around this table can agree that what we're looking for today is actually just a subdued violence. I think the tragedy, thank you, Ron Friedman, with us from Jerusalem today. I think the tragedy of trying to understand the other side, to me, it's reminiscent of, Golda Meir and Sadat. I have to mention this, that nobody understood if he meant Hudna or Tahadiyya and what does it mean, and yes, and eventually they went to war. So let's just hope that the understanding and the semantics will calm down. I want to thank you all for being...
Don't worry, it will.
It will? I mean, the question is what will be done afterwards, because I think this status quo cannot be contained.
Too many interests and too much of a normality have been created between us and the Palestinian Jews in Samaria. It will come back to normal.
That some refer to as the West Bank. We've got 30 seconds from hearing the Oscar music in my ear. Liz, I want to thank you all for being with me this morning. When we get back, Syria, hotspot in the Middle East. Iranian troops are helping Assad. We'll take a closer look. Stay with us. I-24 News Morning Edition on this October
15th.
Thank you. See? You practiced, and it's automatic, and it comes again. October 15th, 2015. That's Ami Kaufman with the news you've missed while scanning the headlines. That's actually headlines. Hit it.
Yeah, we're going to start with a headline from The Guardian. Pretty much all over the world now, we're seeing that Iran is ramping up its troop deployment in Syria to help the Assad regime, sending hundreds of men from its elite forces and also sending its top commander of the Revolutionary Guard, General Qasem Soleimani. So we're talking about a few hundred now, and there are reports that they're going to be up to at least 2,000 people deployed in the near future.
So I think that, and oddly enough, look at the magic. We have Paula Sleer here with us. Russia Today, Middle East Bureau Chief with us in the studio. Putin says he's not putting troops on the ground. Iranians are putting troops on the ground in Syria. First of all, let's start with this. This type of assistance to Assad solidifies, or how should I put it, actually cements the fact that he's most likely staying in power,
sure,
doesn't it?
And that's what everyone's saying, that it's prolonging his shelf life, if you like. I mean, the Russians would hope it's more than just shelf life,
right,
and that this will be a more long-term him staying in power. Certainly, the figures we're hearing is anything between several hundred and a few thousand. It started already 2 weeks ago. It's intensified in the last few days. The Iranians are arriving under the protection of Russian airstrikes, which the Russian Foreign Ministry says has managed to destroy 40% of Islamic State infrastructure. Now, those figures are being supported by Lebanese sources.
Right.
What the Russians keep pointing to is that they've managed to do more in 2 weeks than the United States has been able to do in its coalition airstrikes in more than a year.
But with the arguments that, you know, the Russian air campaign is not destroying just Islamic State camps, rather also the resistance to Assad, you know, that one cannot separate that.
Well, certainly that is the argument. So the Russian response is that you can't separate what they call terrorists. You can't separate the moderate opposition from the extreme opposition, which is Islamic State. And it's been Russia's position from the beginning, which is why it cautioned the international community against supporting what it kept calling moderate rebels. I mean, the Free Syrian Army doesn't exist anymore. What the Russians are saying is so many of those so-called moderate rebels landed up supporting Islamic State. Their weapons landed up in the hands of Islamic State. So for the Russians, they feel justified in targeting anybody that is against the Assad regime. I want to mention one irony. You have the Iranian deal that was signed. Now, that released billions of dollars to the Iranians. Many people are pointing now to the fact that those billions of dollars are being used to send weapons and also to send Iranian troops to Syria. So is it not an irony for the United States that here it signed a deal with the Iranians and now it finds itself having released money that's being used against those very troops that it is actually training and supporting in Syria? Parallel to that,
or as in American history of insurgency happens all the time, yes.
Parallel to that, you had the Russians having these huge amounts of sanctions against them, the same with the Iranians. You then signed the Iranian deal, and recently we saw a $25 billion deal signed between the Russians and the Iranians, a military agreement.
Right.
So both those countries are coming together to work more closely together against the sanctions that were imposed against them by the United States. And now, ironically, the Iranian deal has released money so that neither of them feel the pinch of the sanctions so much. That is just some of the ironies that people are pointing to in terms of what is happening at the moment.
So, because I think it also solidifies the whole notion that everybody's saying that Putin has walked into the vacuum that the American administration has left in the Middle East and actually works it for his benefit.
I mean, certainly that is the assessment, and you just need to look at the feeling on the ground. One of the advantages that the Russians have in Syria is that they have the support of the Syrian government. So in terms of being able to better fight Islamic State, they have boots on the ground, if you like, in the form of Syrian soldiers. You now have this intelligence sharing between Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Russia that is coming out of Baghdad. So the Russians are also pointing to the fact that the intelligence that they're using is so much more reliable and so much more efficient than necessarily the intelligence that the Americans were using in their airstrikes.
Yeah, but sadly, though, I mean, at the headline of all of this, I'm just reminding everybody always, it is nearly 5 years of civil war going on in Syria, and now more guns and are killing Syrian people. Putting that out there. Ami, more press. We're going to lock Paula in with us for the remainder of the...
Might have some use for Paula in the near future in this press review. I'm talking first about Iran again.
Yes.
And showing some images from underground missile base that we're going to have.
There we go.
We're also going to have some video. This base is located about 500 meters underground. It's first media images of a subterranean Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah.
They show pictures of all these missiles that are ready apparently to attack anyone who attacks their arsenal of or their nuclear reactors. They showed pictures of top brass walking over flags of the United States and Israel as they were marching next to the missiles. Very interesting
I can
pictures.
say many editorial things, but the only thing that comes to mind, Ami, is we have to move.
Pretty quick.
Yes. Okay.
Off to the next one.
Is that an attempt to show that they're cooperating with, they're showing the international community
that they're ready?
They're ready.
For an attack.
Okay.
And there's no way you can get to those bunkers 500 meters under the ground.
I love the pictures on the bunkers too. Yes, Ed.
Pretty big scoop from the New York Times. Obama is rethinking a pullout in Afghanistan, especially after the Taliban recently took over Kunduz, but now
Kunduz, one of the main hubs.
There are reports that they actually left the Kunduz recently after some help help from U.S. forces, and the Afghan government took it back again. Now, this is at pretty much Obama's thinking. He has to rethink about the, what kind of legacy he's going to have pretty much close to the end of his term. He was hoping that before the end of his presidency that everybody was going to be out from Afghanistan by the time he leaves office. But now people in the White House, according to the New York Times, are saying it's probably not going to happen. We're going to have to leave probably somewhere around 3,000 to 5,000 troops in Afghanistan to help the Afghan government fight this insurgency. Things are getting messy as well. There's still Al-Qaeda havens. There's still Islamic State is now getting into Afghanistan more. So.
I think if
very interesting
had
headline.
he spoken to the Russians before, no, just kidding. No, please, I know it's turning to.
I mean, in north and eastern Afghanistan, that's where Islamic State now has spread, and that particularly for the Russians is of great concern because the reports are that Chechen fighters are being trained there, Russian nationals are being trained there. So for all the criticisms that many have against what Putin is doing inside Syria, one of his concerns is also the spread of Islamic State beyond the borders of Syria and closer to Russia.
And I think that headline corresponds with it because Obama knows that he cannot. I think the Americans are realizing they cannot pull out all the troops from Afghanistan. They cannot do it. Yeah. Okay.
A day after the Dutch Safety Board confirmed that the MH17, the Malaysia Airlines that was shot down over Ukraine, was shot down by a Russian-made BUK or Buk missile system, Russia is now urging the United Nations aviation body to open a new probe and saying that the Russian Commission categorically disagrees with the conclusions of the final report. They are fundamentally wrong. The lack of logic there is beyond comparison. The Russians actually have their own investigations going on into this and saying that the missile that was used to down this plane was not a Russian anti-aircraft missile. They made their own test. They had their own experiments showing that it was not that kind of missile that was used with some kind of butterfly-shaped puncturing capabilities, and they did not see that. So proving that the Dutch investigation was totally wrong, according to the Russians.
The Russians also say that if the whole incident was prejudged before it even happened, within hours of their plane being down, the international community had already decided that the Russians were responsible.
Right, that's true.
And
that's very, yes.
Isn't it great we have Paula?
It is.
I think that would be the time for us. One last one.
Let's go to something very light. I think this is justice. This is from Newsday. It's a Long Island newspaper, but it's about Connecticut. Connecticut jury on Tuesday rejected a woman's bid to sue her 12-year-old nephew for injuries she said she suffered from his exuberant greeting at his birthday 4 years ago. She sued her nephew for $127,000 because he jumped on her.
I'm going to move you along because what came up was a completely wrong headline. Okay, we're moving along. There we go. Okay, now in business, so to speak, the fun part of the day, the debate in Vegas, which saw 5 Democratic candidates vie for the party's ticket in the 2016 presidential elections, was in reality a 2-person show with frontrunner Hillary Clinton facing off against Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. He's gradually closing the gap in the polls. Everybody was speaking about that debate yesterday. Here are the reactions. Let's have a look at the following report and break it down.
As Hillary Clinton takes a post-debate victory lap, tonight her team on the offensive. Her campaign chairman saying, at this point, Joe Biden needs to make up his mind.
State Hillary Clinton.
Other top Democrats thinking the same as Clinton gets high marks for her center stage performance, revealing a campaign strategy to come. How she'll address that lingering email controversy? By trying to shift the focus. Last night with that assist from rival Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
I want to talk not about my emails, but about what the American people want from the next president of the United States.
Let me say this. Let me say something that may not be great politics, but I think the secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too. Me too.
And when former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee challenged her on those emails, Clinton wouldn't bite.
I think we need someone that has the best in ethical standards as our next president. That's how I feel.
Secretary Clinton, do you want to respond?
No.
Governor.
She's also setting the stage for her trip to Capitol Hill next week to testify before the House Benghazi Committee.
This committee is basically an arm of the Republican National Committee. It is a partisan vehicle, as admitted by the House Republican Majority Leader, Mr. McCarthy. to drive down my poll numbers.
Hoping to solidify her standing in the polls, she's trying to show a likable side, even when she's talking about people who don't actually like her.
You've all made a few people upset over your political careers. Which enemy are you most proud of?
Well, in addition to the NRA, the health insurance companies, the drug companies, the Iranians, probably the Republicans.
Okay, I mean, it's time to introduce the guest I've been waiting for all week, and that would be the pollster and political strategist at 202 Strategies, Stephen Miller. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Of course, we have Ami Kaufman, the man who lives, breathes, and eats for breakfast anything American election-wise. And from Washington, D.C., let's go straight to Rebecca Shimoni-Stoyle, who is the Times of Israel correspondent. Rebecca, what fabulous times we're living in of these debates. But when it comes to a day after the debate, numbers are not really in. We're going to have Stephen in for that. Reactions in and around D.C., a complete resounding win, people were saying, for Hillary Clinton, but is that the case?
Well, good morning. I think that in Washington, D.C., Hillary's win seemed to be complete and resounding. I think that her toughest competition was expected to come from Bernie Sanders. And what Bernie Sanders really showed is that he has certain strengths. He can play to those strengths, for instance, the economy, Wall Street. But when he gets onto other topics, he begins to get a little bit shaky in terms of establishing who his base is.
Right.
So Hillary Clinton, almost by default, managed to overcome her greatest challenge there, which is the the recent increases made by Bernie Sanders in polls.
Speaking of polls, Stephen Miller, I know they don't really come out that fast after a debate. You saw the debate, I'm assuming. Yes. When it comes to numbers, what could we expect, or any questions that come out after, like in the 24 hours, 48 hours post the debate? Where does it stand?
You know, I would expect a few things to happen. First of all, the discussion of Joe Biden. One of the resounding, sort of the most important thing that came out of this debate was, because Hillary did so well, sort of as expected, she's a strong debater, is that the call for Joe Biden to join the debate has been part of the news coverage, and that the call has sort of dissipated.
Right.
That there's less of a reason, there's less of a call for him to run. I think because that has been such a strong message for all of the media coverage, that you'll likely see his numbers, which are the most...
Joe Biden's numbers.
Joe's numbers drop. That's the most significant block that we'll probably see move. Hillary will still lead. She'll still be the front runner. Bernie will still be a second place. You know, he had a strong debate. I disagree a little bit. I think Bernie did very well in the debate. You know, Lincoln Jaffe and Jim Webb and Martin O'Malley.
I mean, let me be the one who says this. Come on, yeah, that's on the side. But I mean, we're talking about...
Right, they don't have numbers that can move much.
Bingo.
They'll go up 1%, they'll go down 1%, they'll be 0, whatever it is, they don't have numbers to move. And I don't think it's going to be Hillary and Bernie's as much as you'll see a distribution of those Biden numbers.
Those Bidens. How much of a, and I'm just trying not to break Ami's heart here, how much of a danger really is Bernie Sanders to Hillary Clinton when it comes to grabbing that party nomination?
Oh, I think he's a huge help to Hillary Clinton.
A help?
Huge help to Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. You know, when we were discussing Hillary Clinton's run, when those rumors began, you know, last year and in Q1 of 2015, we're discussing, and she launched in April in New York. There was a concern that there wouldn't be a real primary race, and that this would be a very awkward process. That she wouldn't be fighting for the nomination. That, you know, how do you engage Democratic voters if there's no real race?
Right.
How do you bring people out to vote? How do you raise money when there's no challenger? So I think Bernie Sanders has been very helpful to the Clinton campaign, both in that he's proven himself to be a challenger, someone who grabs media attention, who grabs polls. You know, he's raising money, and on the other hand, he's not a serious candidate. He's not going to be president of the United States, and he's not going to be the Democratic nominee.
Sadly, we have like 2 seconds for the Donald Trump reaction to all of this. I wonder if we can show that. We do not, sadly. But Trump, yes, we had so little time, so much to say. What did Trump have to say about this?
He thought it was a very boring thing. He didn't enjoy it at all. He said
no,
no star rose. I don't know if we have time to show some headlines, like some satire.
No, like, because I was so fascinated by Stephen in this respect. So sadly, I mean, this is where I stand. When it comes to the Republicans, really quickly, is there, seriously, are we going to look at Trump as the leading, you know, as a party runner?
As a party nominee, no, but he's still going to lead in the polls. And again, I said this on air here before. He'll put foot to mouth. He's continuing to make mistakes and say things he shouldn't be saying because he's not a real presidential candidate.
Oh, okay, that's what we said. Thank you for that. Sadly, all the time that we have. When we get back, something entirely different. Playboy. Nudity is passé, folks. We'll break it down. Stay with us. First, the news. I-24 News Morning Edition on this October.
I told you last time, if you don't remember, I told you 20 months ago.
Hey, that's true. That's true, Ami. That's true.
It's October 15th.
It's October 15th. Sorry, Dad. Okay, here we go. This is going to be the best part of the show, folks. Once the premier adult magazine, that would be Playboy, plans to cover up its models and go PG-13. Is everybody as shocked as I am? Is the world coming to an end? What is going on? The magazine will move away, that's according to them, from full nudity under a redesigned plan for its March issue. It was founded, just to give you an idea, of all of us know Playboy, but was founded by Hugh Hefner 62 years ago, specifically to feature and even celebrate nudity. But times have changed. Nudity and pornography are basically so available online, and people are buying fewer magazines overall. It's kind of what happened to print is happening to pornography. Choosing instead to read or watch online anything and everything, so Playboy is not being bought as it was. Fascinating notion. They also yesterday claimed that nudity was passé, and I'm quoting Playboy. Wow. To discuss this, I'm joined in studio by Tel Aviv Time Out culture editor Amit Kling, who knows a lot about nudity. Good morning to you.
Or about print magazines. You wouldn't say about print magazines. No, you went straight for the
straight for the beef.
Straight for the beef.
Ami Kaufman with us in studio. But let's first take a look at Tal Heinrich's report and break it down.
On Monday, October 12th, one main topic took over all masculine water cooler talks around the world. Nudie magazine Playboy announced it will no longer publish photos of naked women beginning this spring. Playboy's official announcement said, "The political and sexual climate of 1953, the year Hugh Hefner introduced Playboy to the world, bears almost no resemblance to today." In the words of the company's chief executive, Scott Flanders, to the New York Times, "The battle has been fought and won. You're now one click away from every sex act imaginable for free. And so it's just passé at this juncture." Now that the public can easily find nudity in cyberspace, Playboy is trying to distinguish itself from the crowd. The surprising move comes as part of a redesign that will be unveiled next March. Playboy's content will be focused on its articles, however, the magazine will continue to publish sexy, seductive pictures of women in provocative poses, but they will no longer bear it all. In just 5 months, reading a copy of Playboy in public places may no longer make people raise their eyebrows. Nor will husbands need to convince their women that they're just reading the articles. And as much as this might sound convenient to you, dear gentlemen, you got to admit that the 14-year-old boy in you is probably singing, "Oh, bring back, bring back my Bonnie to me."
That's
the first thing VTR I have heard in my life.
That was Tal Heinrich's fabulous, fabulous report. Yeah, not to make fun of things. No, but with us, Amit Kling.
Yes.
Let's just make it serious for a second. We're looking at something because you are, Time Out, Tel Aviv magazine editor. Nudity really passé in print?
In print, yes, and that's the point. I mean, because why would you? Honestly,
if you can go into the
exactly,
bathroom with this.
And it's not, first mobility may have been an issue. You don't want to just sit in front of your computer.
Yeah.
But with iPhones, iPads, etc., it's really.
What is Playboy without its nudity?
It's still a print powerhouse.
How so?
It has a huge. Let's face it. We all make this reading it for the articles as a joke, but it does have a huge legacy of articles. It does. and interviews. Come on.
You're not convincing her.
I'm just thinking, if I'm going to go for the best editorial, would it be the New Yorker or would it be Playboy?
Well, it depends. It depends on the genre, but they did do this sort of, in the. It's not the New Yorker style of editorials, but in that area of Rolling Stone editorials and the GQ editorials, which do have some good journalism. Some it was more new journalism in the 70s. That sort of legacy.
And I'm wondering,
it did well. It did that well, and they did make serious interviews. At its time, the nudity complemented it not only for sales, but also, it gave it a sort of edgy vibe.
True. No, edgy vibe, and you was like in the 60s. What was it? The 60s.
Yeah, it was a rebellious magazine with rebellious writing.
Right.
But today, it's like people are going back to buying vinyl, but I don't think there's going to be much bias for analog porn. Like, the masturbating hipsters.
He just called the masturbating. He just called it analog porn. And to me it was but to me there was something, at the time, because I was growing up in those years. But to me there was something a little bit more. I don't want to say naive, but slightly, because Playboy was nudity with a little bit more style. Maybe because we're living in this.
It wasn't Hustler.
Yeah, it wasn't Hustler. That's the thing. It wasn't Hustler. But it was also. It's something that Playboy. People will argue is part and parcel of what made women objectified, what made women become these objects that we only want to touch, only want to have sex with, apropos. And to me, it was always interesting to see the women that actually chose to be photographed in those newspapers. Cue in, and we actually have somebody on the phone. From Tel Aviv, joining us on the phone is former Playboy presenter Noga Shachar. And Noga, first of all, I think you were the only Israeli that was featured in Playboy, or the first Israeli?
Yeah. First of all, I was the first and the last. Second of all, I wasn't photographed for Playboy. That's a very key point to.
Really? Then what did you do for Playboy?
Yeah, I'm happy I'm happy that it's the news channel, so flashing news. I wasn't photographed on Playboy, just presenting for them.
Just presented.
The channel in Israel. It's important because I had and still have a very, very fierce opinion about women objectified in those magazines and in porn industry in general. And it's interesting that you said Playboy always was, the girl next door. It was more.
Exactly.
It was softer. I think it's horrible to say that.
Really?
First of all,
Tell me why.
Wrong. Second of all, they were the first ones who objectified women. And third, when you look at America TM, as I say it, like America as a trademark,
right?
The only reason that they stopped, that they decided to stop portraying women in full nudity in Playboy magazine, it's because of profit.
Had nothing to do. Yeah.
It's very interesting to talk about the articles and editorials and GQ and whatever, but let's take it down for a minute.
No. But I don't think we disagree. Sadly you're not here because you could see my facial expressions when I'm listening to Amit Kling, who on its face he's a very intelligent editor at Time Out magazine, but he's also a man.
Yeah.
So
so yeah,
exactly.
I have my faults.
Not your fault, but still, when you say the editorials are phenomenal, it's the kind
I
of
phenomenal. I have not said the word phenomenal.
The objectification.
It's too early for me just to remember the word phenomenal.
Yeah. Yes. No.
As I answered to my partner when he asked me, "Am I a feminist?" So I told him, "You're asleep." Okay. I'm not blaming the Time Out guy in the studio for being a chauvinist or anything, but he's just asleep. So I want to wake everyone up.
Yeah. But the thing is,
it's wrong to sell your body from numerous ways, and it's wrong to consume someone else's body. But
amen to that. But Noga, then you lead me to the next question. Why were you a presenter then for an organization that basically that is what it pushes?
Exactly from that reason.
Why?
Because I'm sorry, I don't think if you ever heard about the culture jamming. Have you ever heard about that?
Amit, what's culture jamming?
Culture jamming means that you don't stand from the side and protest. Oh my God, Playboy is horrible. Oh my God, I'm a feminist. No, you go into the organization, use their power, change the perspective of the people around it. So that's what I was trying to do when I was 20. I was very naive and 20.
Okay. But what you thought you were doing, maybe. Okay.
Well, I think I do. I had a lot of achievements in this field, especially the fact that I was really, and that's sad that people can't see me in the studio, but I'm really not what you expect the Playboy bunny to be.
Okay.
I had short hair, no boobs. I talked too much, and I had too many opinions. 3 weeks after I started my job, people told me, okay, they understood you're an intelligent woman. Now be sexy.
Now be sexy. Okay, got it.
So I can do that. I can do both. And one doesn't make the other one go away.
No, they don't contradict, but I think it's not up to us in that respect. In that respect. But Noga, I want to thank you for being with us. Sadly, we have to move along, and sadly also not in studio. But thank you for being with us this morning. I think, and it's hard to conduct it in that way. One doesn't negate the other, but at the end of the day, Playboy is part of the machine. And it's not. I'm not going to blame Playboy.
It's not a cause.
It's Western
it is
society.
A symptom.
I mean, it's like we object.
It's a symptom. It's not the cause.
It's a symptom. I mean, bingo. It objectifies women.
The one thing is the last thing a magazine ever wants to be is out of touch, and publishing nudes on print today is out of touch.
It's out of touch. That said, you were locked in studio because in order to be straight back, in touch, we need Ami Kaufman with the viral spiral that is the web review. Smooth. Yeah, smooth. Wasn't that smooth? Ami, thank you for jumping in in terms of I'm going to fight the system from within the system and have them pay me.
Right.
Thank you.
That's just my opinion. I am really jealous of this Associated Press writer because I think he wrote probably the best lead sentence of any news piece that I have ever seen in the world.
Huge introduction.
Actually, this is the viral spiral. I do not yet know if this piece is viral yet, but I'm hoping that it will be if we can see the first headline. Zoo meerkat expert sentenced over assault on monkey handler. Let me read you this lead sentence because I think this is the best.
Okay.
Wait. I think this is the best lead sentence ever written in journalism ever. This is history.
Right now.
Okay.
People,
please listen closely.
Yes.
A former meerkat expert at London Zoo has been ordered to pay compensation to a monkey handler she attacked with a wine glass in a love spat over a llama keeper.
Wow. Those
is that not the best lead sentence that has ever been written in journalism?
I have one that tops it.
You have one?
Yeah, I do have one. I will never forget.
Yes.
It's a headline, but still. Can't remember name of Hungarian PM. No PM. Parliament member. I meant.
Mm-hmm.
Sends abortion bill to Congress.
Oh my God! Sends abortion bill to Congress. Nice.
That's a good headline.
Journalism. Yes, and
this is from Tech Insider. These are some surreal photos from a guy called Eric Pickersgill. He's a professional photographer, and what he did is he came up to people that he saw in everyday instances where he sees people with their phones, and he said, He goes up to them with his camera and says, "Can I please take a picture of you without your phones? Just put your phones on the side." He actually did it also. Let's see some pictures.
Yes.
With his wife as well.
Oh my God! Just as if you're holding
that is
the
him.
phone.
That is a photographer and his wife. He tried to deal with this. This is some family members of his.
Right.
Some of them are family members. Some of them he actually went up to people that he doesn't know and asked them permission to take their picture without their phones. This is also his wife. When you can see with a car in front of her, it's like more of a kind of like a safety precaution.
She's
one of those
texting. Pictures of Plank and maybe. Okay.
This is a real married couple that he met, and he asked them if he could.
To do that. Nice, yeah. Basically,
couple on
we don't look at each
vacation.
other.
We're all just too focused on the phones.
You think? Because we can get porn on it.
Easily.
Wasn't it? Yeah, okay. Easy. And
this couple, as we can see from the headline from BuzzFeed, had the craziest wedding crasher. It was the president. Let's see some pictures. They were at a hotel in San Diego, and this hotel looks over a golf course, and Obama was playing golf, as you can see. And they were looking at Obama as he was playing golf hoping that they could go and say hello.
Things that would never happen in Israeli security.
So Obama came over and said hello and crashed the wedding.
I crashed the wedding.
Stephanie and Brian Taube are the names of the couple.
Yeah, that's the wedding of the century. Yes, darling.
Yes. And Aerosmith from Steven Tyler giving trouble to Donald Trump. Another rock star who does not approve of politicians using
Stop using Dream On.
Stop using Dream On.
And
it's probably one of the most difficult choruses I think to sing.
Because both of you were like,
it's a karaoke I think hazard sometimes.
It is a hazard. The highs are very high.
Dream On. When you get to Dream On, it's
So we shouldn't be trying to sing it here.
It's not the first band that's giving Trump trouble. First of all, REM gave him some trouble.
REM gave him trouble.
And also, in June, rocker Neil Young didn't like the fact that he was using Rockin' in the Free World.
But I don't want him to go, Trump, because he's making this all so incredibly interesting.
He won't go for the near future. I promise you.
Yes.
A nice little viral video from New Zealand. 4 French people who were taking a hike in New Zealand. One of these guys had these things on his helmet while he was walking.
GoPro.
Let's take a look.
He just
let's see
the
what
bridge
happens.
collapsed.
Let's take a look. Okay, this is the shot that I survived the death fall.
They all survived. All 4 people uninjured, came out. Everything was fine.
All the time. We have, when we get back, we have fashion and sports, I think. And sadly, no meat cling. Thank you very much. Okay, folks. I-24 News Morning Edition on this October 15th, 2015. And I am tremendously happy, not just because it's the part that ends the show, and I'm tired, but because we have the gorgeous, beautiful, amazing Avri. Yeah, gotcha, if I know that.
Yeah.
And the incredibly well-informed, intelligent Maya Kramer. Lovely to have you back with us.
Thank you very much.
And you are a fashion aficionado. I was trying to throw Avri off base, so to speak. Before we start, Maya, on everything that is fashion and we need to know, what do we think about what Avri's wearing?
Yeah, I've been looking at that elephant on your
T-shirt. I was concerned about that. What
you
does
were
that
concerned?
Yeah, what does that mean?
King elephant.
Yeah.
What were you thinking this
yeah,
morning?
Is this the hipster kind of... Okay, never mind. Yeah. Moving along.
Yes.
Fashion. What do we need to know about fashion this week?
The kids of fashion. We saw a bunch of kids on Fashion Week.
Yeah, we did.
Who are they?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, we'll start with Karl Lagerfeld, Chanel's show, remember, at the airport terminal?
Yes.
At this show, Karl was walking the runway with a little boy named Hudson. Okay?
Hudson.
Now,
Hudson
who
is
is
the name
Hudson?
of a rich boy. Yeah. Who is Hudson?
Hudson is a 7-year-old boy who's the godson of the fashion mogul.
Okay.
He's the son of Brad Croning. Brad Croning is Karl Lagerfeld's muse since 2003. He's a model, a male model. Yes. Karl has adopted Brad and his family.
Okay.
He's also done this with other male models. He creates kind of like a family. And
I'm going to interject for a second.
Mm-hmm.
That's so creepy.
It's so creepy. Wait, you got to hear more. You have to hear more because there's more to this creepiness.
Yes, okay.
He takes them around the world in his private jet. He buys them luxury goods. Here's Brad.
Yeah.
He is good looking.
He's good looking.
Yes.
But he gave his son to that. Okay.
Yeah. And for Lagerfeld, physical beauty in people he surrounds himself with is a personal requirement.
Wow.
It's like a need for his own happiness.
You're
so he
quoting
needs
him,
to
that's what he said.
He actually said, I hate ugly people, period. Very depressing. He said that.
He should not look in the mirror. He should not look in the mirror.
I was about to say, I hate ugly people. Very depressing.
Yeah.
This is one of the men, ladies and gentlemen of the press, that controls the fashion industry.
Controls
it. Yeah, controls the fashion industry and Western society's perception of life and beauty. Lovely, we're all going to hell. Okay.
Yes, so in addition, if that wasn't enough, he speaks about his boys. These are all the male models he surrounds himself with.
He calls them his boys.
His boys.
Okay.
And he says, quote unquote, I see them like family. I have no family, so it's good to have sons without the unpleasant problems sons can create.
I am
We're feeling warm and fuzzy here inside.
I mean,
wow.
I don't want to say, but I think there's some weird shit going on there.
Because the first thing that came to mind was, ooh, he takes them on planes and rides. How very Michael Jackson. Yes, ouch, wow.
Anyways, let's move on to the next.
Karl is my father?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and this is a post from one of the models, yeah.
The thing that comes to mind is I'm looking at all of this, and this is so available in social media. Where is that entity that will come up and say, did anybody call social services?
You know what? I want Karl to be my father, too. I want the luxury goods.
I want the luxury.
I want the private jet, which, by the way, his
But
private
honey,
jet
we don't
is
know
the
what
second
that comes
largest.
Up with. What does it come with if you get that from this man?
You don't want her to be your father. You want him to be your sugar daddy.
Okay.
Especially because he doesn't like women, so it's perfect for me. Yeah.
It's easy for you.
The benefits here is the wife of Brad.
The wife of Brad.
Yeah, she's getting all the benefits.
Who's not in this picture.
She's not in any picture.
Yeah, missing from all the pictures.
Where is Brad's wife? Let's start an investigation.
And the kid in the background, mommy. Okay, yes, and moving along.
Let's move on to the Beckhams.
Yes. Okay.
A family,
Another well-adjusted family.
Yes. In past shows, the whole family has come out to see Victoria Beckham's shows, including 13-year-old Burberry model Romeo, 13 years old.
Yes.
There's their daughter,
what is
Harper.
Harper.
Yeah, and a 10-year-old Cruz.
And they're there against, what is the name of they're next to?
Yeah, this is father-son duo Brooklyn of 16.
With the glasses.
Oh, Anna Wintour.
Anna Wintour, thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's Romeo who...
That's
did,
Romeo.
Yeah, who did the Burberry campaign. So that was like, the Beckham kids are always in the front row at Victoria Beckham show. And
that kid's not going to be fucked up at all when he grows up.
None of these kids are going to be messed
deep,
up. Yeah, messed up.
Deep, yeah, messed up, thank you. I'm just thinking with the name Romeo, you don't want to enter school as a 7, 8, 9-year-old boy, I think, with the name Romeo.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Let's move on to another beautiful name, Northwest. Household name. The girl is barely 3, I think. And she's been in the front rows for a few seasons now.
And Anna Wintour is everywhere.
She's been, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
She's always there. Totally.
Northwest is looking at the camera like, what do you want from me?
No, Northwest has the expression of, somebody save me.
Yeah.
Yeah, come
Basically.
here, take me.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And she's been rubbing elbows, obviously, with Anna Wintour, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce.
Look, stop it for a second.
Yeah.
They dress her in the same same way they dress when they walk out the house.
There's family stylists. There she is.
Yeah.
Between Anna Wintour and Beyonce, and she has no idea who they are. No idea.
None whatsoever.
She's like, why am I here?
No, and this is the look of, oh God, I'm hungry. Here we are again.
Mom, why do you take me to these places?
Yeah. Wow.
Next, amazing kid, very well-kept, Jaden Smith, the son of Jada Pinkett and Will Smith. He is a 16-year-old rapper and actor.
An actor. He's already...
Yes. In Pursuit of Happiness. You probably remember.
He likes wearing dresses?
Yeah.
It's tunics.
Tunics.
Male tunics. That's what it is, not dresses. He was seen at the front row. Here he is with his girlfriend, PDAing with Sarah Snyder, who's an actress who was actually arrested earlier this year.
For what?
She stole a $16,000 Birkin Hermes bag, and actually was charged with felony, grand larceny, and 3rd degree. This is the kids of our future.
That's a good shidduch.
Yeah, he can buy it from her. Now he can get her a Birkin bag.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yes.
We had a discussion outside the studio. Just I'm bringing the audience in on this about raising your children in the States, and here's the answer as to why not.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there's that.
The kids of our future.
Yeah, nice.
Now, speaking of that, let's have a look at a short clip from Yeezy's show, Kanye West.
Let's take a look.
See the guy in the back, right?
The guy in the
smoking in the back. That's Ian Connor. He's
How
not a
old
kid.
is he?
He's not a kid.
Okay.
But the kids that follow him on Instagram call him Dad, and he's become the king of youth.
How old is this kid?
He's like in his 20s. He's,
thank God, he's in his 20s.
Northwest is sitting in the front row there. I'm just, I was thinking of him smoking and Northwest sitting in the front row.
That's
this guy is like sort of Dad? They call him Dad. He's kind of like an icon for the kids of the future. He's a stylist. He's a consultant. He works in merchandising. He's a designer.
Okay.
And he's best known for throwing out free designer clothes outside his hotel room in Paris to kids. On the street,
I believe the children are the future. And what a messed up future it's looking to be.
He also travels around the world and takes
with
selfies of himself in the bathroom with people. You see, there's always someone in the background, usually elderly.
Yeah.
That photobombs. He's kind of like a character, prankster.
They call him Dad.
And they call him Dad. And I'm gonna show a little clip of his
antics. Let's take a look.
And then when the other guy came in, he got freaked out.
He got freaked out.
And he left.
Yeah.
And he's gonna...
that's pretty freaky.
Yeah, so
I mean,
very, very freaky. And this,
two black men flanking you. I'm sorry. It's scary.
You really put it out there.
Yeah, you're going out
today.
today. Everything.
You're
in
New
York.
It's the shirt. It's the shirt. He's
It's
the
the
king
shirt that's making
today.
it. It's doing it. Wow, Aubrey, I'm afraid for your health. But yes.
No, no, I have no problem.
So those are the kids of fashion.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I'm missing words here right now, not just because of fatigue, but I'm looking at Hagerfeld with his boys, which is very, I don't know how to say it, you know, Vatican-esque in many ways, but creepy stuff. And if we're speaking of creepy stuff, it is the time to move to Aubrey. But culture, folks. The culture editor of I-24 News Culture magazine with us this morning, and I haven't sat with you in quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Right. I was away. You were away. Whatnot, the whole 9 yards. So, what do we need to look out for when it comes to pop, movies, films, and books?
Well, we are starting with Daredevil.
Daredevil.
The first season of which was on Netflix a few months ago.
Right. Yeah.
The superhero TV show that got it right.
I was about to ask, did it get it right?
It did. It got it right. It was a very good show. It's a street-level hero. And now we're ramping up to season 2, and we have a trailer.
A trailer. Let's take a look.
2.
Father, why do I still feel guilty? Guilt can be a good thing. It's a soul's call to action. The indication that your work is not yet finished.
Okay, Daredevil. I gotta ask you, because isn't that also, didn't Affleck do a Daredevil movie?
Yes,
and
Affleck did.
Awful.
It was very bad.
Okay, that's how many years ago?
Affleck did.
movie was good. Just
No,
nice.
no.
Yeah, sorry, touche. Okay, and go ahead. And
so this is a show on Netflix written by Drew Goddard, who just had a huge hit with The Martian. He's blowing up. He used to be a writer on Buffy, so I have an affinity to him.
Nice.
The
people of Buffy need to be promoted.
And so the first season was kind of not really the origin, but kind of like the starting point of Daredevil.
How he became.
He's like a more of a street level hero. He fights crime in Hell's Kitchen. He doesn't fight aliens and stuff like that, like the bigger guys. And season 2.
He's elevated.
It kind of introduces two characters from the mythos. One is the Punisher, which people might know is the guy with the big skull on his shirt. He's more of like just the guy who shoots bad people. Not really a superhero,
but
more
just
of a
shoots bad
people. We could use him here.
Yeah.
And Elektra, which is
Elektra,
a Greek princess who sort of
formerly played by
Jennifer Garner. That's where they met, and now they've divorced. Yeah. So we're coming full circle.
It all collides. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
We talked about children. This week we had on the Culture Show a very interesting item. We had the curator of a show about art by Israeli artists when they were children.
Interesting.
It was like childhood drawings of artists.
That's interesting to me. I'm gonna go home and look at my kid's painting and see if she's going anywhere.
Oh my God, my daughter doesn't stop drawing.
Yeah.
I'll bring her drawings in next
time. And we'll judge.
So it was started by Ayala Gordon. She did a research. She gathered a lot of children's drawings from artists, Israeli artists, to see what the commonalities are.
So this is Dan Reisinger.
This is Dan Reisinger, who did the Let My People Go, the famous poster. So basically what they asked were, can we tell something from these drawings?
Yeah, can you find talent that early on?
And the findings...
Oh my God! How old was he when he made it?
This is
That's not our kids.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is their work today, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's the work, the latest work. But we'll soon see his childhood drawings.
Dudu Gerstein, you're right.
Of Dudu Gerstein. Well, and the findings were very interesting by what they found.
Saw.
Yeah.
Okay, Raphael Levy of no connection to me. That's almost Van Gogh. Yeah, no, it was the brush.
That's his childhood drawings.
Wow. No, that's interesting.
That's as a young kid.
I cannot believe I'm saying this. It's the use of color and brush strokes that, yes, I took art history once. Yeah, but Wow, and that's today,
That's
right?
Today,
that's today, because that's very.
So it's very interesting what they found. So basically, the age to look for is around 10, because most children draw until around that age. But if they keep going, then they might become artists. And another thing to look for is, do they sign their drawings?
Interesting.
Because children who after 10 start signing their drawings they're taking ownership of the art. They want to become artists. So that's kind of interesting things they found. They also found that artists tend to come from artistic houses, not just from painters, but people who are designers, architects, people who worked in there. At an early age, they tend to become. But we do see interesting through lines in style, which is what I found more interesting. You can find we can find essentially like what in terms of style? No, just you can see that if you look at the paintings of Rafi Lavi, you can see it coming together. You can see the style of Rafi Lavi
forming itself when he's young, and then
when he's like 13, 14 years old,
and then becoming that. No, it's fascinating, and sadly, all the time that we have. I mean, there was another story about Room, that film that everybody's talking about. We'll touch on it next week because you're coming back.
Okay.
And Maya's always coming back. I want to thank you both for being here this morning. Lovely to have something that doesn't deal with mayhem and destruction.
Yeah.
And of course, do not forget to check us out, I-24 News Morning Edition, Facebook, Twitter, all those social networks, and tune in tomorrow morning to start your day with the Morning Edition on I-24 News, because that's the place you should be. Thank you.